All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name's Rachel Klein. I will be your presenter today. Um, Today, we are going to be focusing on creating new pledge campaigns. So I know it might be a little early, but the end of the year is approaching us faster than some of us might want, but we're going to need to get that pledging information in. So as the pledge cards go out and that information comes back in, we're going to have to get it plugged into the donations module so we can track people's pledges appropriately. So today we're going to go over creating a campaign, how to plug in the appropriate information like the... Oh, I'm getting a message here that my mic is sounding off. Give me 1 second, everyone. All right, why don't we try this before I get too much further? If you guys can hear me clearly, please raise your hand over in the attendees tab. If you're having a hard time, please shoot me a note in the comments. All right, looks like a lot of hands are going up that I'm coming through loud and clear. Holly, I'm sorry you're having a hard time. Maybe you can always try, if you're listening through your speakers, try calling in over the phone. All right, so what we need to do is get the campaign created, and then we need to plug in the giving account that's going to be linked to that campaign, and then the start and end dates for when that campaign is in effect. And then we'll also go in and put in our people, what they've pledged, which involves their frequency, and then the amount that they want per the frequency they requested. So, a couple things about the GoToWebinar toolbar. There is a place to ask questions, as I said before. If you have any questions, Josh is listening in. He'll be here to answer questions. And if I see them and I think they would be helpful to everybody listening, I will be more than happy to read them out loud and share my answers. Try to keep your questions topical if you could, please. That way we can get through them. If you have specific questions or a specific question to your data, call or shoot an email at support@churchwindows.com and we can go about answering it that way. Okay, current version of Church Windows is 18.15.4. You can see that over here up in the top right. If you're not up to date, we always recommend being current. You can go out to churchwindows.com and get the update downloaded there. There's installation instructions, or you can give us a call and we'd be happy to walk you through it if you need it. All right, so I went ahead and opened donations. There's two ways you can actually get to the campaign or pledging setup screen. Right here in the middle, you have the little pledging blue ribbon that you can click on. And this is going to take you to your view and enter pledges window. You can get to it this way by clicking the little blue ribbon, kind of a shortcut, or you can come up here to accounts and pledges at the top, hit the blue ribbon here. Doesn't matter, get you to the exact same place. It's just two different options to get there. So this is going to be where you're going to plug in your pledging information. Now, if you notice on this screen, there are two tabs. You have a Campaign Pledges tab, and then you also have a Pledges by Giver tab. If you are creating a pledge that is for everyone, so if it's like a pledge drive, that's what my church calls it. If it's an organized pledging campaign, you want to stick to the Campaign Pledges tab. Okay, now if you have someone who comes to you on an individual basis, sometimes in churches you have someone who wants to kind of set up their own individual pledge. So say Betty wants to give $5 a week for altar flowers or something to that extent. If it's not a massively organized drive by the church, then you would want to come in here on the Pledges by Giver tab, and then you can just enter one individualized pledge here. We're not going to get into the Pledges by Giver in too much depth today, but if we have time at the end and anyone has questions, I'll be more than happy to go over it. But today we're going to just focus on campaign pledges. So under campaign, you have a little down arrow. This is going to show you all of your past campaigns that have been set up within church windows. So anyone who was on contributions before, if you guys tracked pledging there, it would have converted and you would see it down here in the drop box. So this is where you would come to see any past campaign or pledging information. But for us, we're going to make a new one. So we're going to use this little green plus sign to add our new campaign. So for my example that I set up today, we're going to do a building campaign, and it's going to start in 2017. So I'm going to just call it Building Campaign 2017. For me, I like to put the date in the name as just a quick way to kind of glance at when it was in effect. You don't have to put in the year or years if you don't want to, but for me, I find it helpful. So Building Campaign 2017, and we're going to hit OK. And as soon as you click OK, you see this next section unlocks. And this is where you're going to pick more of the details about this campaign. So this is the giving account that's linked to it, the start and end dates. Now, say you put in a name here and you decide, I made a typo, or the committee decided we're going to change the name of this. You can come hit this little pencil here, and you can edit the name to something different. You can do that at any time. Minus sign, pretty straightforward. It's going to delete the campaign. I would use this with caution, but it is an option. Use and distribution. This is a really great tool if when you're entering donations, you enter them with a giving distribution of according to pledge. So on the enter donation screen, right next to the amount, there's a giving distribution setup. You can do it as a manual, you can make a custom one, or you can set it according to pledge. So by doing that, if you enter someone who has a pledge, the program is knowledgeable enough to plug in that information or help enter that information for you while you're entering their donation. It's a really nice feature. It helps with speed on entering donations. I can show you where the help is on this if anyone has more questions about the use and distribution option at the end. Okay, so next is going to be picking the account. So this is going to be the giving account that people are going to donate to credit their pledge. So for this example, we're going to pick ID 103. This is our building fund. And then we need to adjust our start date and our end date. So here, start date, we're going to do 01/01/2017. End date, we're going to do it through 12/31/2017. Now you also have these two default boxes here, amount default, frequency default. This would be if everybody had the same amount. So if everyone was pledging $50, for example, you could put in an amount default of $50, and then whenever you enter a giver, it will just automatically come up with $50 filled in for you. Same thing for frequency. If everybody's going to be an annual pledger or if everyone's going to be a weekly pledger, you could adjust this default to whatever you want. It just helps with speeding up the entry process for your pledges. But I'm just going to leave it on flat, and then I'm going to hit Add Givers. After you hit Add Givers, the lower half of the screen unlocks, and now this is where you put your people's pledging information in. Before we do that, I do want to show you this Edit Campaign button. So if you decide that you need to change something in regards to the account or the start or end date, you have to hit this edit campaign button first. Okay, so it kind of locks out this screen so you can't accidentally change something in there and not know you're doing it. So we had that happen to some users. So we've added this edit campaign button so it's locked out that section so you can't accidentally change something. Okay, so now lower half, we have our giver box. This inactive and terminated box is checked. That just means that in the drop box below, you will see inactive and terminated people in the drop box. If you don't want to see inactive or terminated people, you can simply uncheck that box and you won't see them as an option to pick from in the list. And then sort by giver number. If you're going to be looking for your pledgers and searching for them, I should say, by their giver number, make sure you check this box, and then this list will be sorted numerically. If you don't check this box, this list will be sorted alphabetically. So it just kind of depends on how you like to enter people. This sort by giver number box is pretty handy. It's on a lot of different screens. I know it's on enter donations, but if you like to look for people by their giver number, if you use giver numbers, then you'll probably want to check this box. If you don't use giver numbers, then it doesn't really matter, but if you'd rather look for people alphabetically, it would be a little easier if you uncheck that box. Okay, so I have a couple examples of different pledgers that I wanted to walk through and put in with you. All my examples have giver numbers, so I'm going to check that box. And I'm going to start with Jan, so I'm going to put a 9 in. It's found Jan right away. I'm going to hit Enter Tab to select her, and then by hitting Enter Tab, then I'm automatically going to jump to my pledge amount box. So Jan's going to give $5,000. And she's going to use a pledge frequency of flat. So flat just means that she is going to give that amount any way she wants. She can give it in a lump sum. She can give it a little bit each week. She could give it at the end of the year. But she can give this basically any way she wants. She's just going to give this amount. So then I can hit Tab again. You can see that my Add Giver to Campaign is selected, and then I can hit Enter on my keyboard, or I can use my mouse and hit Add Giver to Campaign. And Jan is now going to pop down below and be added into my campaign. And as soon as you hit add, your cursor is going to be back up in the giver box, so you don't have to go back up there and re-click, and you can work for your next person. So next I have Lucy. She's giver 4. I'm going to hit tab, and she's going to do $3,000 annually. So I'm going to hit tab, and then I can just hit the down arrow on my keyboard if I want, so I don't have to jump back to my mouse, and I can switch to annual, hit tab again, and then hit enter to add her to the campaign. So annual means that Lucy has until 12/31/2017 to meet her pledge. All right, next I have Carolyn. Carolyn is going to give $1,000, and she's going to give it semi-annually. And then I'm going to hit Add Giver to Campaign. And as you can, if you look down below, your amount per frequency for her is 1,000, semi-annual, so twice a year. And then in the total pledge column, this is where it's going to do your calculations. So she actually has $1,000 due twice, which gives us, obviously, $2,000. All right, next person, we have Jack. Jack is going to give $100 quarterly. We're going to add giver to campaign. There's 4 quarters in our date range, so he's going to give $400 for the year. All right, next we have number 64. They are going to give $250 a month. Change your frequency to monthly, add them to the campaign, and then here's their total for the year. Next we have Jeff. Jeff is going to give $10 semi-monthly. Now you don't have to use all these different frequencies. I'm just selecting them so you can see how it's calculated down below. But it's really, it's really up to you how you want to see it. Oh, and as you can see, I accidentally picked quarterly for Jeff instead of semi-monthly. If you ever need to make a change, you just click on the box and then you can select the actual frequency that you need. And then if you hit tab or click off, it'll refresh. So there's the right amount for Jack. And then let's go up to Samuel, 24. And Samuel's going to give $5 bi-weekly. We'll add him. There's our total. And then the last person is weekly, which is a pretty common frequency that I see. And she's going to give $50 weekly. And then there's our total. So everyone can have the same frequency. A lot of churches I see, everybody does annual. That's fine. You can have whatever frequency you would like for people. If people don't specify a frequency, which sometimes that happens, they just give you, if they say I'm going to give you $5,000, then you could use flat if you wanted to as a frequency, or you can use annual. But that's pretty much it. So once you start getting back that pledging information or those pledge cards, you can come in here and you can plug in your people. Barbara's asking the difference between flat and annual. Barbara, annual means that someone has until 12/31, so the last day, to meet their pledge. So, for example, if you run a report and you cut it off before the last day, their pledge amount is going to be listed as $0 because they have until 12/31 to meet that pledge. So if you're okay with seeing a $0, then and when you run a report for just 6 months or not the whole year, that pledge amount is going to show for 0. But if you're wanting to see the pledge amount for someone and you would like to run your reports for first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, then you might want to go with a frequency of flat. But you can easily come in and change the frequency if you want. Yep, I like flat too, Barbara. Okay. Let's see here. We have a couple questions coming in. Let's see. Bob's asking, where does the amount actually given to date show up? If you're wanting to see how much they've given, Bob, that would be another good place to go to the Pledges by Giver tab. So if I jump over to Pledges by Giver, and here's somebody, Jan, who has a lot of pledging history. You do have a total given column here. So this is a good place to quickly reference how much someone has pledged and what they've given to their pledge so far. Someone's asking about use and distribution. This has to do with when entering donations, how that money is going to be distributed when you are entering that person. So if we go into enter donations, right here, it shows what distribution you have selected. So if we hit the little pie chart, you can select what distribution you want. So if we do according to pledge, that is going to, when we enter a donation, like if we enter one, we'll just do 2017, and we choose Jan because we know she has a pledge, and we put in $100, it's going to see that Jan has a pledge in this date range to building fund. So by default, it's going to pull up the account that is linked to her pledge because we're using a distribution of according to pledge. Now, if you did manual, which is an option, which I think a lot of people use manual. Manual just means it's going to come up with whatever order you've specified your accounts to appear in. So if you hit these little dots here, you can see that you can reset this giving account order to whatever you want when it's set to manual distribution. Okay? Any other questions anyone has? I know we covered a lot, but creating a campaign is pretty slick. As long as you get your account picked and your start date and your end dates, you basically just have to get those pledge cards and get them plugged in. So we're right at the 20-minute mark. I'll sit tight for another minute or two to let you guys type in your questions, and if I don't see any, then we'll close up shop. And feel free to leave if you've gotten your questions answered. Yes, Bob is asking, can the amounts pledged be changed later if the giver changes their mind? Definitely. So, for example, say Jan decides she actually is going to give $6,000 instead of $5,000. All you have to do is click on this box and change it to what you want. You can also get a little bit more involved if you would like. Let's say, who's a good example? Let's say that Jeffrey wanted to give, we'll say, $200 the first month, and then every month after that he wanted to give, say, $50. This is just an example. So let's do $200 for the first month. So I will need to come in here and actually adjust my end date. Oops, 31. And then you can come back up here to the top and find Jeffrey again. And then here we could put in, what did I say, 50? $50 monthly. And then we'll hit Add Giver to Campaign. And it's going to tell us you have a conflict, which we know. So we need to go here to change. And then we are going to have the start date actually start in February. We want this to be monthly. So now if you look down here at the bottom, we have one line for Jeffrey where he's giving $200 in the first month. And then we have another line up here for Jeffrey where he's giving $50 monthly starting in February. So if someone comes to you mid-year, mid-campaign, and decides that they need to adjust how much they're pledging, say they can't make it work or they want to increase it, you can use start date and end dates to reflect that in your campaign. All right, if anyone's still typing, just hit send so I get it before I close up too early on you. The two blue buttons on the far right of the screen. Bob, I think you're referring to these. This would be This return would be if you make a change in this row and you decide you don't want that to change to stick, you can hit this return to cancel your change back to what they were. Or this minus. Thank you, Bob. I should have pointed this out. I missed this. But this would be if you actually want to remove someone's pledge. You would hit this minus sign here. And that would then allow you to delete this person's pledge to the campaign. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close up shop. We're about 5 minutes over. I hope you all learned something new today. These setting up a campaign and getting the pledges in my opinion, I think is really slick. It's pretty great to be able to pick your frequency and pick your start date and your end dates to really reflect what people want. If they're going to give to your church, it's really great that you can have a program that can be flexible to do exactly what they want because they're given, so let's make it work. Why don't I go ahead and if you have any other questions, please email them to support at churchwindows.com or give us a call and we can talk to you further about it. But I hope you all have a wonderful day.